The following people and story are fictional, but the trends are real. When it comes to kitchen trends, the opinions are endless. There's some trends that I love and there's some trends that I just can't stand, and I'm sure you're the same. But what if you want to add an element of trendiness to your new kitchen, but you don't even know what you like, and you don't even know what trends to pick? That is where my client Jane comes in, because recently she and her husband Phil were renovating their kitchen. She's 65 years old, a retired nurse. She now has a little more time to spend in her kitchen. She wants to enjoy it. It was easy designing a kitchen for Jane because she knew exactly what she wanted functionally. She wanted cleaner countertops, a place to store things, she wanted more organized storage, and she needed a dedicated space for baking, which she planned on pursuing a little more in her retired years. But what she couldn't nail down is what she liked stylistically, and she wanted to add an element of wow to her kitchen. She had no idea what that looked like. She didn't even know what she liked, and she didn't want to get this one wrong. Now, I have a lot of opinions when it comes to trends, as I'm sure you do as well, but I wanted to give Jane a fair look at some of the more popular trends and then let her decide for herself. Number one, and by far the most polarizing of kitchen trends in my opinion, is the open or floating shelf. I can hear the comments now, and I know a lot of opinions about the open shelf are out there. And those who love them, and those who hate them, hate them. There doesn't seem to be much of a middle ground. However, there's no denying the fact that the open shelf is a very popular trend. So I wanted to show Jane because it's out there, you see it all over the place on Instagram or wherever you look at kitchen pictures. And so it was the number one thing on my list to show Jane, to say, hey, what do you think of these? Now, obviously Jane had seen open shelves before. She had been looking at pictures. She didn't really consider it for her kitchen. Now, I know there's lots of issues with the open shelf, the bugs, the grease, the dust, the constant keeping it clean and neat and tidy. I mean, they definitely add to the cleaning regimen of your kitchen. However, it's difficult to deny the fact that they just look really nice. I mean, especially on Instagram, and maybe only on Instagram or wherever you look at your kitchen pictures, when everything is nice and curated and they have the books and the plants and the lemons and all the stuff. Yeah, it looks really beautiful. You have the opportunity to display special items and curate the shelf in such a way that's unique to you. And you get rid of the painstaking task of opening cabinet doors. Everything's at arm's reach. It's easy. Maybe it's a good idea. And when done correctly, which I use that term loosely, you could certainly add a beautiful feature to your kitchen. Jane loves the look of open shelves. She's just a little worried on her ability to keep things looking neat and tidy, and when she heard about the bugs and the dust, it was kind of a no-go for her. However, that doesn't mean that in your kitchen it can't be a beautiful feature. For Jane, it just seemed like she didn't want to spend time keeping the thing looking neat. Now, the second thing I decided to show Jane, which is easily becoming a very popular trend nowadays, is wallpaper. And by far the least expensive option of the 5 trends that I went through with her, and one that can be added without too much fuss in a kitchen. Wallpaper design has changed a lot over the years. It's not something that will just keep your kitchen dated or your room dated like in the 1980s. You have the chance to flex your interior designer metal with all the options that are available to really create a unique look in your space. I'm not a big fan of the term accent wall, but that's kind of what you can do with wallpaper. However, it doesn't just stop there. You could wallpaper all of the walls in your kitchen to give it a particular look that you're going for. Now, because this one has a more interior design element to it, I really encourage you to get some help unless you're just intrinsically good at interior design. Jane certainly wasn't. And I'm not an interior designer, I don't claim to be, and so I was not going to be the one to suggest to her whatever the color pattern of the wallpaper should be. So we reached out to a friend for help who had a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of just, you know, you have that one person that you know who's like, they're really good at decorating. That's the person you want to reach out to get their opinion on what the wallpaper should be. So after doing that and going through a few options, Jane was really pleased. And spoiler alert, but this is one of the trends that she picked for her kitchen to give it just a little sense of, oh, this is really unique and me. Now, aside from the pain of hanging wallpaper, which I don't think is really that difficult, it's a very cost-effective way to add an element of design and style to your room so that when someone walks in there, they think, oh, you really thought this through. This is not just something you threw together. This is put together in such a way that it's unique and beautiful. Number 3 was something that Jane discovered on her own, actually, while walking through an IKEA showroom. Have you ever seen those hang-it-all rods that hang on the wall? you can put your ladle on it or some utensils. You can hang things there to keep them off your countertop. She thought this was an interesting idea. And it is a very trendy thing. When you see something in an IKEA showroom, that's a good indication that a lot of people like that because they're selling it to the masses. And so when you look at those big box stores, some of the things that they display are trendy because they wouldn't have things that are there that they're not selling. That's sort of how trends work. More people buy it, it becomes a trend. And not necessarily that it's more beautiful, it has to do with the consumer who buys the thing. And a lot of people are buying these hanging rods. And of course, IKEA didn't invent this trend. These rods have been around for a long time. I remember them years and years ago when they first came out, which they probably didn't first come out when I discovered them. They had probably been out forever. It's the easiest thing to add to a kitchen so that you can just hang things around. Unlike wallpaper, which you can take off the wall, when you're hanging these rods, you're putting a hole into your wall and possibly into your ceramic tile if it's on a backsplash. So I caution you with this one, you really want to make sure that you like the look of this and you think it's going to be functional and beautiful for you, because by removing it, now you have holes in your wall. Jane really liked the look of these. She was kind of going for that farmhousey type of look, and these hang-it-all rods really fit into that style well. If you can find a trend that is also functional, then that's a real win. Plus, coupled with an open shelf and some wallpaper, can really be a magazine-worthy kitchen. I don't even know if they have magazines anymore. Well, I'm sure they do, but who reads magazines? I don't know. The fourth thing that I showed Jane and encouraged her to consider for her kitchen was a barn door. I'm kidding, nobody wants a barn door in their house. They're so not trendy. Ugh. But seriously, what I told her was that this next trend is something that is definitely on the rise. I see more and more people talking about it and doing it, and I have more and more clients considering this option. And it is less wall cabinets or no wall cabinets. And this took a lot of convincing with Jane to even convince her that this was a possible idea, because the thought of not having wall cabinets for many people is really this out there idea. Like, who would ever design a kitchen that didn't have wall cabinets? Like, what do you do on the walls? Well, you just add more wallpaper. But once you see the kitchen rendered without wall cabinets to look at the possibilities of what the space can look like and what you can do with those walls, then everything starts to change. And when you start to look at pictures on the internet of kitchens that have less wall cabinets, you really start to see that this is a really nice look. Now, although I love this design feature, it's not for everyone. You have to make sure that you have all the bases covered when it comes to storage. Now, Jane had a lot of things she wanted to store, and the idea of not having wall cabinets was a huge hurdle to get over. But that doesn't mean you can't have less wall cabinets, or around certain elements, shrink back the amount of wall cabinet space that you have. For instance, around a window or a range hood, the wall cabinets don't have to be right up tight to those things. You can space it back 6, 12 inches or more, whatever you determine. So there is a little bit of a juggling act when determining how many wall cabinets you need, but the fact of the matter is a lot of the space in your wall cabinets goes unused and can probably be all stored in maybe 1 or 2 wall cabinets, and you could get rid of 1 or 2 wall cabinets. Now, in the end, she didn't go with no wall cabinets, but we definitely left some space around the window, around the range, so that it wasn't completely cramped in, and by no means will she be missing that storage space. But I encourage you to really look at this idea when you're renovating your next kitchen on whether or not you need all the wall cabinets or not. Take a look around the internet and see some pictures of this just to be inspired on what this looks like. Now, getting rid of wall cabinets seems counterintuitive coming from a designer who really champions function and storage. I get that. However, not all cabinets that hang on walls are functional. It might be the very opposite in some cases, creating hard-to-reach areas where things get left untouched for years. And while wasting space in a kitchen is a very contentious issue, it just might be the thing that helps your kitchen breathe a little while letting other cabinets carry the load. I mean, quite literally. One design element that we're seeing more and more of recently are curved cabinets. Now, this is by far the most permanent and expensive of the options that I've shown Jane, but I thought it was worth showing them because it's a really unique feature. It can add an element in your kitchen that probably your neighbors don't have. Curved cabinets are not new either. They've been around for quite some time, and as long as we've been bending wood, we've been having curved cabinets. But it seems to be on the rise, and we are seeing it more and more, especially in 2022, now in 2023, and I'm sure as the years go into the future a little bit, this trend will grow even more. It's a beautiful look. It might not be for everyone, but if you want to add that extra into your kitchen, adding curved elements is a really smart way to do it. And it doesn't have to be just cabinets. It can also be in architectural elements, such as a niche in a wall or on countertops. There's different ways to add curves, but cabinets are definitely one way to do it. Ask your designer if they can incorporate a curved element to your kitchen if it's something that you're interested in. Overall, Jane wasn't really interested in the curved cabinet idea, though she thought it looked beautiful. It wasn't something that she wanted to invest the money in because it did cost a lot more, and so we nixed the idea. I'm sure if you're a very handy DIYer or a skilled carpenter, you could make this work with any type of cabinet. Does it impede storage, or are you losing storage by rounding off a cabinet? No. A lot of times it's just a facade and the inside of the cabinet is squared off like a regular cabinet, but even if it wasn't, you have round things in your kitchen that you can store in there and probably make the most of that space. This is coming from a guy who blocks off corners and admittedly wastes tons of spaces in kitchens. So I don't think the curved element is wasting space. Don't know if this trend will become dominant. I don't think it will, but something worth investigating if you like that look. Ultimately, Jane decided to go with wallpaper and some of those hanging rods, which she discovered at IKEA, and she ended up having a really beautiful space that she was happy with and that she really enjoyed. And that is really the main point of any kitchen trend, is to make sure it's something that you really love. Regardless of what a designer or YouTube or Instagram or anybody says, if it's something that you really enjoy, then it's worth investigating in your space. Chances are that if you're looking online at some of these trends, you'll find something that sparks your interest or catches your eye and can be something that you can easily add into your next kitchen renovation. Now, regardless of the trends that you put into your space, having a functional kitchen is very possible. Check out this video to help you design a very functional kitchen.